Welcome to another edition of the Growth Game. I'm Paul DeLuca, CEO of Meritus Capital, and we're really excited to have Justin Clarke with us today, a staffing entrepreneur, and we're going to learn some excellent tidbits about things he's been through, the ups, the downs, the growth, and all the fun, everything fun in between. So, Justin, thank you so much for joining us today.
Paul, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Awesome. Well, when we start these and we don't know each other, which, frankly, I love filming these when we haven't actually formally met. Some of my guests we have, some we haven't, but I love it when we haven't sometimes formally met because it's just this nice little, primer on the elevator speech of who each other are. But I'd love to just tell you a little bit about my background. I'm an entrepreneur. I started out from a long line of entrepreneurs. I'm not a banker. But the first business I had out of school was basically a specialty staffing company. And I financed my company in the 90s with an outside accounts receivable finance company. Did that for a while, grew really quick. And after a while, decided that I wasn't cut out to keep growing a staffing company, but I really loved helping entrepreneurs grow. And so I ended up becoming the finance guy. So I've spent an entire career doing that since the late 90s. I think I've financed now it's somewhere between 8 and 850 staffing companies across the U.S. and Canada. And wow. I get up every day and love what I do. So continue to really enjoy helping my clients grow. And so, Justin, love to hear your background. How did you get into the staffing business? I love asking that question because everybody has a different, unique answer.
Yeah, mine's a little unique story because I was all of 19 years of age when I started this company. So I kind of tell people awesome. I went from candy sales, to staffing business, right? Mostly just because I didn't do my research. Just kidding. But when we started this company back in 2001, I have always been a people person, and so I was taught the staffing business from my mom and some other individuals in my life. And it was a natural business that I could fall in love with because I just love people and I love helping people. Yeah. And for 23 years now, I've been inside of the staffing industry, focusing on placement of commercial truck drivers. And it's a unique niche in the supply chain, kind of category. But that's our lane that we live in. And we feel like truckers drive everything. Everything we need to live our lives comes on a truck and is hauled by a professional truck driver. And so we want to do everything we can every day to help these drivers find quality and meaningful work. So I am the CEO of this company and have really been leading this entity with my family since 2001. And really excited to be here and kind of share a little bit about. I think we called it Therapy Thursday for a bit, right? To talk a little bit about what we've learned in this process. And these podcasts are always cathartic for me. They're helpful to really draw out that vision even further. So I'm excited to share a little bit about what my unique story's been, what we've done to kind of mold ourselves inside of the staffing industry.
That's great. Excellent. And I absolutely appreciate that. We focus on the name Growth Game, and I'll tell you what, every single one of these podcasts has something to connect on and be able to align with and envision what that future looks like. And it absolutely is cathartic. It helps to kind of, for all of us, including the audience, to kind of continue to evolve our thinking and our patterns of what we're doing to really, kind of continue to progress our businesses. So very interesting. And by the way, one thing that you said that is absolutely a pattern that I see for almost all of my entrepreneurs that have become successful and my guests is this business attracts people who enjoy working with people. It is a people business. And that's one of the reasons I agree. I love it so much. I love it so much because the ability to connect with people on a deep level and be able to impact their lives and have that interchange, it's really exciting for me because you're really adding value to people's lives. That's what I see in the staffing business. It's one of the main reasons I've stuck with it all these years and continue to enjoy helping people grow. So very cool. So you started when you were 19.
Yeah, for sure. Started when I was 19.
Yep. So you started when you were 19, jumped into a specialty, which I love that. Like I talk about that all the time on my content. If you can specialize in staffing, that's super important. But why truckers? Why the transportation industry? How did you pick that niche or even fall into that niche but stick with it?
So I would say that I didn't choose it. I fell into it. But I have always been attracted to trucks and driving,
Hmm.
and kind of the movement of vehicles. My brother and I we had these big long CB radios when we were younger, and we would like get online and just listen to the truckers chatter on the CB radios, and I always just thought it was fascinating, right? That these guys were, spending their lives, hauling goods around the country, whether it was local or out over the road or whatever it was. And so I did fall into it because my mom was working at another staffing agency, and that's how I actually formally learned about this model. Was really just because I had family inside of this industry. But I would say that maybe the universe pulled me into it a little bit more than I want to admit, right? Because of
Yeah.
how much I really do love big trucks and everything that comes along with the trucker community. I enjoy it, so I think that I was
Nice.
probably dropped into it maybe intentionally.
Yeah, yeah. I sometimes things work just because it was, you're attracted to the right thing. There's a match, and that's really enjoyable. I find that when you focus on a niche, any niche, you start to see the passion of what drives those people's lives. Not no
Hmm.
pun intended, right?
Right,
And
right.
and I agree. I have a separate business where we finance transportation companies, and so I get that. There's a lot of that same kind of drive for doing something new for your life and creating a little bit of value in your life. It's very similar to staffing owners, and I see that in transportation companies as well. So, talk
Hmm.
to me about the evolution of the business. I know you've
Yeah.
moved from kind of more a traditional model. You've now started to really implement more technology. Tell us a bit about how that evolution, then what putting these companies together, but with a technology focus, has looked like.
Yeah, I tell this story and I tell people my initial pain was really from paper. And it was because every applicant that we bring on as a truck driver requires a driver qualification file full of their background
Mhm.
information, and it's at least 30 pages deep. So as we were screening and
Wow.
interviewing and hiring drivers, we had stacks of paper all over our offices. I had to get medical file storage systems to move paper around. I had to get storage facilities to hold our paper. And it was just like moment in my life actually where the paper came falling down on me. I was in one of my offices and I was putting a box of paper up on a shelf, and it was like this box broke all the shelves and they all came falling down on me. And it was this moment where I said, I am done with this, right? Like I have to find a different way forward because it can't be a business that's just going to consume me with paper. So we learned about applicant tracking systems early on, like 2006. We were one of the earlier adopters of a new technology that would allow us to take in digital applications. That was the starting point of my run towards technology and understanding that technology can really make the user experience so much better for the applicants and for the employers that are hiring these applicants from you, and less errors. There's more controls. There's more predictive analytics that you can kind of place around the system. I loved how much more I could learn with technology than strictly just through human behavior. And so I just continued to roll through exercises and finding out how I can improve it. And we've made some strides along the way. And what we did initially was create an extra company that was a technology company that would help us kind of achieve that technology that we were looking for with the staffing business. Over the years, we started to see that those entities were coming closer and closer together. And so much so that in 2019, we converged the technology company with the staffing company to create a tech enabled future for staffing. And I'm so excited about what we're after because I really think that it's going to be the change that unlocks so much more efficiency around the staffing landscape. And I'd
Hmm.
love to talk more about it, but I really the thing that I talk about is like the staffing industry has a Berlin Wall in front of their customer and behind their worker, right? Because everything must go through the secret staffing door or over the secret staffing wall or unlocked through the secret staffing relationship, which I disagree with. I actually think that workers and employers can find what they want much faster if we help them come together instead of
Yeah.
being separate. And so that's what we're trying to do in our future is we're bridging that gap by creating a marketplace of talent, but not subscription based marketplace. I mean, staffing, like pure staffing, where you can go to a website though and search and filter, find, request, and hire people on demand. right? Without the need of the recruiter to place that worker with you. So the future of staffing that we believe in is one that's a little bit more autonomous and allowing for the workers and the employers to find each other directly and act more as a conduit for their success instead of that white glove operator trying to, bring you over where you need to go.
Yeah, that's great. And so really then your technology evolution really involves more of a marketplace, a place to be able to kind of almost have a community where you house the talent and you're giving direct access to the buyers of that talent through your technology is the focus.
Yes, with enough information for them to make a confident decision in real time. Right. So that comes with not just names and information. It comes with skills, certifications, ratings, reviews. We're now building in driver videos and photos to allow for our candidates to highlight the things that they're good at. Right. So we are really trying to bring everybody together and not, say, well, call me and I'll let you know the 5 candidates that I have that I want to promote to you. I actually don't even believe in that future, right? I believe that we should be screening and finding the best talent for our employers. But then after we do that, we need to allow for them to make the decisions as to who they'd like to hire faster.
Right. In other words, really hand the curating over to the buyer of talent from your database. Now, that's super interesting. And I know a lot of people are trying to do something similar. And I agree with you. I think it is the place it's going. I think there's definitely room for white glove service, but this idea of being able to hand more power to the buyers, I think, is an inevitable. It's an inevitable conclusion. I think there's certainly going to be a lot of evolution in how that gets done. There's different people trying to solve it with different ways. I love what you're talking about with the videos. I think that being able to get that extra piece of not just what the facts show on paper, but really being able to communicate openly in a video format with what they feel that they're good at, what helps buyers of talent be able to kind of connect the data, the facts with also, the communication. I think there's a lot to be gained there. Very interesting.
Yeah. The other thing I was going to mention too is that the other thing we've learned over the 22 years is that workers go to work for logos, but they leave last names. Would you agree? We're promoting this brand that you're going to go work for, but you're not actually going to go work for this brand. You're going to go work for this boss that has a last name. So when you go to work for someone, you're going to work for their logo. When you leave them, you're leaving the last name. So what I like to do, what I really wanted, my vision in getting it to that completed state would be that I could actually match a worker to a last name, not to a logo, right? So that we can actually truly find cultural matches, right? Because cultural matches, in my opinion, happen at that human level, right? People to people. Right. It's not straight just the core values of the organization and you're living and breathing them, right? It's actually much more closely like this manager that I work for is a Raiders fan and I like him because we're both Raiders fans. That's actually the culture that helps keep people working together, right? And so that's what we're trying to untool is this idea of like, hey, we want to find workers for logos. I go, I don't want to do that. I actually want to find worker for the last name that the individual is going to be working for. And, all of our future, we're trying to get to that kind of state.
Super smart. Love it. Well, you obviously have a real understanding of what's happening in the transportation industry. Talk to me a little bit about the transportation industry trends. I mean, what are you seeing? How is that affecting hiring? It seems that transportation industry has been in the economic news a lot lately, and most of it's been fairly doom and gloom. So what are you actually seeing on the front lines?
So, I mean, through COVID and the changes that happened with logistics during that time, I mean, really, there was a lot of disruption and there's a lot of growth in these trucking companies, a lot of heavy profits that were happening in these trucking companies in that period of time too. So now they're coming back down to neutral a little bit and reality is setting in the industry. And I think that things are becoming more normalized, right? I think that we always have cyclical changes in freight demands and seasons that happen and come and go, right? So I'm not really worried necessarily that the transportation industry is or isn't doing well currently, because I think we're just destined based on the consumers and what's going to happen and the buying atmospheres that change, right? So products still get shipped. they still get sent, they still get bought, right? People are still consumers today, right? And so that means that transportation is still the network that holds that together. And so I see that, you know, I see a lot of potential change in the future, to be honest with you, Paul, for some really real meaningful efficiencies. But I don't believe
Mhm.
that things are going to happen in the next decade to really change anything drastically, right? So, leaning in on, let's say, like artificial intelligence and autonomous trucks and things like that, right? That really should provide such great efficiency gains for the industry. Regulation isn't anywhere close to saying yes to that yet, right? So the way that I look at it, I'm like, we're still going to be in this old school, stodgy trucking landscape, right? At least for the next decade, limping along with these, archaic methods. And there are companies like ours, though, that are thinking differently and trying to embed technology into the equation to make it faster and better for everybody. But I really think that, you know, we need to do what we can to help the truck drivers find the work that they want long term. There's too much change and attrition. There's not enough retention inside of trucking
Yeah.
organizations, and it just tells me that the culture isn't there for the drivers. They keep running away and changing jobs because of it. So I think that, again, going back to what we're trying to do, we're trying to match workers to last names instead of logos. I think that will help clean up and really improve some retention inside of the industry. But the trucking industry is, it's one that's still ridden with paper. It still doesn't have, enough technological advancement as it should have. But I am seeing startups that have, blockchain elements, that are going to help bill lading and help, kind of free up a lot of the time and administrative waste that comes along with just, again, managing the paper. So where I changed away from a paper society over a decade ago, 15 years ago now, even, right? Some and many trucking companies still can't get away from that because of what's been built and designed, and it's just old, and the way that it operates is just, it's slow, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I
That
think
makes
that
sense.
so there could hopefully be some advances coming, but I don't see anything drastically changing in the industry for at least 10 years.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you. When you look at the companies that are hiring, what are you seeing in regards to the smaller independent trucking companies as opposed to the much larger conglomerates? Like where are you seeing contraction? Where are you seeing growth and opportunity? Is there still room for a 20, 30 truck and less very very entrepreneurial independent workforce in many of those companies, or is there a lot of consolidation? What are you seeing as far as the consolidation and the independence and the size of the companies that you're working for?
I'm still seeing startups. It scares me like crazy because I think that until you get to that 30, 40, 50 truck set, right, you're really in a dangerous position. But those that can make it, right, and go over those hurdles, I think there's so much opportunity. I mean, so there's and it's really because things are still changing so much, and
Right.
companies are still looking for efficiencies when it comes to how they manage their freight, right? And so third-party logistics companies like Ryder and Penske, they're going to continue to see major growth because of the challenges that they take on for their carriers. They're not easy, right? And so I think that third-party operators are going to continue to shine. I think that there are some really good opportunities inside of some contract business. That's where I would say that
Hmm.
a new operator should start not just hauling freight; they should get contracts, and
Got it.
and especially ones that are designed around 12, 24, 36 months or longer. When you're so new, most of these guys start out and they just start grabbing freight out of brokerage networks, and then they this freight dries up over here, so they get another broker, another broker, another broker, and that's just how they're managing their business instead of actually like driving growth into their business through a contract, right? And being able to see those gains over time. There's some really good freight that you can actually haul, even in government contract work with the United States Postal Service that a lot of people are unaware of, right? And
Hmm.
that's they're going to continue to add more to that network, mostly because of Amazon. Right, because Amazon
Hmm.
needs every large hauler network, and no one makes daily deliveries better than USPS to the household, right? And so I really feel like there's some really good opportunities for contract work, but I think that smart operators will research it first and then start their companies after they've done the research instead of starting their company and then just, kind of trying to do the research while they're running. Those are the ones that I find that usually don't make it. Or they'll only make it to 3 or 5 trucks or something like that instead of 30, 40, 100 and beyond.
That's excellent. Very, very insightful. I really appreciate that. That's smart. And I've seen that in our transportation finance business, where you think you can just, go hire a truck and build it and, they will come. You can do that, but it's that relationship is constantly changeable. And the flip side of that, I've seen some very targeted companies, really win the contract to provide a very specific service for the buyer. It is on contract. Everybody knows what to expect, right? And that consistency really does work. Super interesting, and that's very insightful. Talk to me a bit about, the last 5 years. What have you learned? Well, maybe I'll even go a little wider than that because, without talking about the aberration of COVID, what have you learned over the course of the last 6 or 7 years in regards to growth and how you really approach growth for your business?
We do look at things a little differently because I don't want to be so short-sighted and only focus on growth to, let's say, revenue. And only using that as a marker of our success because we're disruptive and we're looking at the future differently. And so when we look at growth here, we look at speed as a big factor, right? So if our speed of hire or our speed of placement or our speed of, certain methods and areas inside the business are being tracked, regularly, and we're maintaining that speed and we're thrusting and improving that speed, that's actually a better sign for growth in the long term than maybe a sales win here or there, right? And so because we are looking for a sustained business approach for the long term, and I think that has to include a big return of investment for the customer. We haven't been so fixated on revenue growth, and I think that that's kept us focused on the development of the business.
Optimization. Essentially, you've been saying, listen, the way I get ahead is not necessarily top line growth, but optimization and productivity and managing your KPIs. It sounds like you're doing all the things to work on your business instead of just adding more revenue. And I think that's very smart.
Right. And I think we do we treat ourselves a little bit older than we probably are. It's funny. I call this a 22-year-old startup, but then, even at the level that we are at, I always feel very proud of the development to, all of the, let's call it like back of the office or marketing materials or things that we have. It's oftentimes that people that see us or experience us think that we are at least 3 to 4 times the size that we are because of what we look like. And so I'm always proud of that, that people have that impression of us and our brand and what it looks and feels like. It feels bigger than we actually are, which helps me know that we are actually getting to that future that we're going to because, people won't let you just naturally grow. Right? Like they have to see the opportunity in you and they have to believe in you. And so if they believe that we're already this larger size, we're getting, I guess more opportunities than maybe we should deserve.
Well, and you don't trip over yourself when you do grow. I mean, I think that's absolutely important to make sure you've got your mousetrap, you've really figured out, and you're adding technology, you're doing things to be more productive, and that sophistication will pay in amazing future dividends so that when you do really grow, you're really growing in a sustainable way. And I think that's extremely important for all of us that, we have our business model figured out. It works. It adds a significant advantage over our competition. And then now you can all of a sudden, apply revenue growth to it. And so, I hope to see you continue to grow even larger than you appear to be right now. But
what I want to be is larger than I expected.
Yeah, I agree. I look forward to that as well. So what scares you about growth? What are the things that you go back to? You talk to your family, your executive team, and you go, I don't know. Are we not ready? What scares you about revenue growth?
So I think it's the opposite for me. It's not growing that scares me.
Yeah.
I actually don't mind growing and having sprints in an area that dies off. I love growth. I just love seeing, new sprouts. And I love seeing that. So for me, I think mostly because, I was that 19-year-old entrepreneur with just a ton of energy and enthusiasm to go and break stuff and create it later, and fix it and continue to move on, that I have always been focused on growth, and never have been scared of it. So it's, yeah, I don't have that big fear index inside of me like that some others may have. And I think every entrepreneur has less of it than the general population. I think I even just
Yep.
have less of it than the general entrepreneur. So I definitely, I'm more scared of not growing and scared of failure because we didn't succeed than I am scared of growth itself. I'm totally not
Good.
scared of growth itself.
Yeah, that's good. And I find that that's what keeps you going, right? You continue to drive towards really being able to build something that's really interesting for
Hmm.
everyone around you and your stakeholders, right?
Right.
Talk to us a little bit about your path on active social media posting and content. Talk to us a little about that journey. I see you're very active on LinkedIn, as I am, and
Hmm.
as I should say, I've really become over the past year and a half, 2 years. Talk to me a bit about how you evolve that. How do you stay up with content, and what does it really do for you?
It helps me express my vision, right? So that's definitely a big platform to help me share these ideas with others that have similar interests. But what it's been lately for me actually is a platform to cheerlead and champion my friends. Okay.
Yeah.
So we've been doing a lot more posting about the vendors that we work with and why they're successful with us and what they do for us and how it's important, to our carriers or to our employees or to our teams internally. And I really didn't. I've been in LinkedIn for a while, and I'm posting, pretty regularly and trying to stay engaged and try to keep things fresh on there. But I really didn't understand the power that the platform has when you can shine a spotlight on your friends, okay? And
Hmm.
then how much of a spotlight it turns back on you in the process of that. So we've been really enjoying our posts lately about our friends, and I think they are too, and it's showing because there's more shares of any post that we've ever had on those posts, right? And they're always making comments and feedback. So that's what I like. I think the most because I enjoy sharing highlights about other people, and I just forgot that this would be a platform for that. I always use it as a platform for myself, and now we've changed that a little bit, trying to change it into a tool that can not only give ourselves lift, but it also gives lift to our friends in the process.
I love that. I think that's great. When you're lifting other people around you that you are highlighting that are not just successful, but add value to your life, add value to your business life, you're lifting everybody at the same time. And I think that's wonderful. It's one of the reasons why I spend so much time on the podcast. I love bringing, whether it's vendors or entrepreneurs in staffing, people that impact, but all of us together, it enables us to not just get the word out about who we are, but I think it also enables the audience to connect at a deeper level, in a more transparent level with who you are, which makes the conversation of when you are ready to actually do business with somebody, you've really brought down this timeline to actually understand: are we a match, and do we think correctly, or do we think
Hmm.
see do we have alignment on something? That whole timeline, it's really compressed. And when you're ready to do business together, it's just easier because you've really been able to see, regularly once a week, everything that you're thinking and doing and expressing, and you get to know who the people are. So it's been a great tool for us as well. And that's great. So I'm glad you're doing it and lifting friends. And that's a really eloquent way of saying that.
Hmm.
Let's talk a little bit about kind of leadership and helping people break through the limitations they put on themselves. So
Hmm.
when you work with your team and you see somebody that has the ability to achieve beyond what they're limiting themselves to do, how as a leader do you work with that? How do you get people to break through the limitations they put on themselves?
It is tough. It is so tough because when you want more for somebody else, right? It's almost like, the parent-child relationship sometimes, right? You're like, God, does my kid not want it as much as I want life for them? And, I don't know, how fair that is to necessarily like look at that, holistically, just to say that. So here's what I would say is if I see somebody limiting out, right? Either I'm working to work them to find their next thing, right? Because they're just burned out, or this isn't for them anymore. Or if I and the other individual agree that no, I haven't lost passion, for the business at all, then I try to. I think they lose passion for themselves, and what I try to do is transition it back into, again, a meaningful conversation about who are you actually working for, right?
Yeah.
And so when I can remind myself that I'm actually working for my wife, my two children, their futures, and everything that they need for their lives, and I'm like, oh, I'm back again, I'm back. And so if there's a moment that I can help with kind of call it burnout or something like that, it's usually that. It's reminding like, hey, we've got a bigger thing to focus on here, right? It's not just us. We've got a whole thing going on. And even if that's a single person, they still have family. Or if they don't have family, they've got a pet. If they don't have a pet, they've got friends. If they don't have a friend, they've got a network. It's like, we're here too, And so I'm like, even if you don't want to do it for yourself, do it for us still, right? Because we care about you and you care about us, right? And so no matter what it is, I think when you convert passion into like, hey, I'm doing it for something bigger than myself, it reignites that fire again, right? And so here we do have a platform for truckers drive everything, and that's our reminder every day, right? We're here to work for those drivers. That's what we do, but I think that even becomes old after a while, right? Because it's just a commodity type thing. And even though, you are working with real people, like you have to remember, there's a big picture, right? And so it's usually, like I said, a family or some purpose, or it could be a charity or alignment with some other bigger goal or something like that. But alignment with a greater purpose to bring back to the work today, right?
Yeah, that's great. And I think inspiring monumental change in people's behaviors and thinking, whether that's an entrepreneur that is tapping themselves out, or that's an employee that's tapping themselves out. It all comes back down to, what is this all about? What's the purpose? Why are you getting up every day? It's funny. I shared a point. I shared some content this week where I said, listen, making more money is just boring.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not doing it for a purpose, what really drives you and who you are, then doing that or just showing up and going to work every day is going to get old. You are going to burn out. And I appreciate what you said. I know for me, when I spend time with my now grown daughters, and now I have two grandbabies that are 1 and 4, two granddaughters. I mean, when I'm watching them and I'm thinking about their future and the things that I continue to get up for every single day to add value to their lives and their families' lives, that drives me to make sure that I'm going to be spending my time and my energy progressing forward, right? And so you have to have something, whatever that is, and it's different for different people. But I appreciate that even with employees that are limiting themselves, it's what's next. What's your purpose? What else drives you? Because it sometimes just isn't getting up every day and hiring people and placing them. Obviously, there's just more to life than that. You got to find that and stick with it and remind people. And we need reminders ourselves, right? That's one of the reasons why, like you said, doing these podcasts are great, because it makes you stop and reflect and meet new people and go, what's driving us? Why are we doing this? Why are we spending all this time pushing out all this content? There's more to it than just some number on LinkedIn, right? So
it's not the ego, right? You know what I mean? 100%. I mean, it's some of the ego, right? But it's not the ego driving this forward, because again, we're doing this because we want to share and win together, right? And so that's why we want to collaborate, in my opinion.
Well said. Well said. Do you have somebody that you could pick out that has inspired you in your career? Whether it's somebody you've known or somebody you respect, is there some inspiration, career inspiration?
There's a bunch, right? I mean, I actually tell that story because I caught all my education through mentors, right? I dropped out of college when I was 19, started this company, and I've been doing it ever since. And so I am holistically thankful for all of the mentors that I have had, and it's many, right? So I can't really name one, but I will tell you this. the women that I have had in my life that have shown me just a deeper level of strength and adversity and ability. Like I feel like there are some really strong women out there. One being my grandmother, who still works for me. She's 90 years old, still collects every dollar that we send up. Okay, so that's
I
number one.
love that. That's a
Yes.
great story.
Fantastic. And she doesn't want to quit, even though my mom, who I was in business with, who's now already retired, is trying to get her mom to retire. And I'm like, stop it. She doesn't want to retire. Don't you guys get it? Right? She is like, this is what she does. So, the women in my life, from my grandmother and then also my mom, who taught me this business, right? I wouldn't be the leader that I am today without all of the battling out that we did to grow and create and to kind of keep this business alive all these years. And then I would also really regret not mentioning my wife and how strong she is. I'm constantly amazed at how big of a taskmaster she is at getting stuff done. So, I mean, I gripe and cry about my role all the time and bitch and complain. And she does have her own small business as well, right? She does have the kids' lives to take care of. She also runs our nonprofit charity, and she takes care of every bit of our family, including dinner time, right? And so the women in my life are miraculous. I have no clue how some of these individuals do as much as they do. I don't think that I do that much in my life for sure. But yeah, they have really helped shape me in all ways possible.
That's powerful. Absolutely. Shout out to all of the spouses and our moms and our grandmas. That's
Yes,
amazing. And how amazing to see how they impacted your business career. That's fantastic. Thank you
agreed.
for sharing that. That's a great share, Justin. I really
You
enjoy
bet,
that.
Paul. Hmm.
So let's talk about this and we'll wrap up on this point. When you look at leadership and you look at the way that you create trust with your team,
Hmm.
how important is that to you? How do you foster trust? How do you, display it? And how do you really make sure that that's a big piece of your leadership puzzle?
Right. Great question. I don't know if I'll be able to answer it in a way that'll help your audience, completely understand the way I think about it, right? But my wife and I talk about this a lot. My wife comes from the field of psychology, so we bridge a lot of this conversation regularly, right? And so we talk about trust marbles, right? And that every time you do
Mhm.
something good, nice, whatever, you put in one marble into that jar, right? And so trust marbles are built over time, but they can be lost in like one pour out. Right. And so trust is fickle. It is one of those things where it's even harder than love, right? Like I feel like love is easier for people to pass out and give regularly than trust, right? And I'm like, you have to have trust to get to love, but I don't know why. There's an issue there, right? But I would say that I try to have an unwavering character, right? And so you're not going to get a different conversation here. I'm not going to go, I won't leave this office and all of a sudden act like a complete dickhead to my team, right? You're not going to be like, there won't be this change of Justin that comes out of this office, right? So keeping true to yourself all the time is important. And I
Yeah.
do tell people that, like, if you're an antic type and you're crazy and you're all over the place, like, just don't change. Just be that for me all the time, right? So I try just to be authentic and true, and then if I'm authentic and true, then I will automatically gain trust in others because they know that what I'll tell them is the truth. Because over time they'll have seen me, be open and honest all the time. So I do think that I'm a really open individual to begin with. So I get a lot of trust marbles given to me, right, just out of the gate, and then I just work real hard to try to protect them so that I don't lose them. But I think that I'm really open and interested in learning about others first, and I'm pretty empathetic and caring and thoughtful. So I get a lot of trust marbles just given to me, right? But again, I never forget that I can lose those marbles. So I get one pour out, and it doesn't take much to do that.
Yeah.
It can be something so small, and we try to bridge that gap here with our core values and our vision and making sure that's always tight. And I'm a very active, engaged leader. So I'm at the office. Unless I'm out at conference or traveling with my family, I'm here Monday through Friday, right? And so my team sees a lot of me. And so I try to foster that here. When I see people make a mistake and break trust, I give them the ability to recorrect action, right? I don't
Yeah.
believe in the fact that you can lose trust and not regain it, right? I think that you can
Yep.
lose trust, regain it. And I think as leaders, we need to give our people the opportunities to make mistakes and not feel like every mistake is a grave mistake. Like business, unlike, life or all the games we played, business is not a zero-sum game, right? We can actually win together. We can lose together, right? All the other games we played it growing up, everything else we learned, it's all zero sum, right? That's
Yeah.
not business. Business is different
Right.
than that. And so I try to, build and foster trust with my friends and with my coworkers and with my spouse and everybody by holding the highest level of authenticity that I can.
I
And
love
then
it. I
just stay
love it.
true to myself.
I mean, I don't know how you could have, if I would have prepared you a month in advance, answered that question better. You said, I don't know if I'll really answer it. And you answered it perfectly. And I appreciate it so much
Yeah,
because I absolutely am simpatico with you. Authenticity, transparency, having a clear focus of your core values are, and then doing the best you can every single day to earn those trust marbles. I love that.
mm,
That's a beautiful analogy. And then not mess up. Here's the reality: we're all imperfect, so we all make mistakes. And
mhm.
and to the extent that we correct those mistakes the best we can, but you're right, you can drop those trust marbles out pretty quick. So, but I appreciate that, and frankly, that's what makes a good leader. And obviously, you are a good leader. So, well, this has been fantastic. I
So fun.
really appreciated you coming in, Justin. This was really great, really good to get to know you. Absolutely hope for continued success for your business and continuing to put drivers on the road and get all the stuff we need to live life moved around this country,
Exactly.
which is super 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 important. So thank you so much for your time today, and look forward to your future success. And so this has been another episode of the Growth Game. Again, Paul DeLuca, CEO of Meritus Capital. We've had a great time here with Justin, and until next time.
You bet. See ya.